Hello everyone, I'm Mary Grace V. Saison and I will be your teacher for your lesson today. Our objective, performs subtraction of dissimilar fractions. Hello kids! Last time I discussed about subtracting similar fractions. Subtracting similar fractions is easy because their denominators are the same. We just subtract the numerators and copy the same denominator. But what if the denominators of two fractions are different? What are we going to do? Let's try to solve the following problems involving subtraction of fractions with different denominators. Mary has 2/3 kilograms of grapes. If she shared 1/4 kilogram of grapes to her brother, how many kilograms of grapes was left for Mary? In the problem, Mary had 2/3 kilograms of grapes and shared 1/4 kilograms of grapes to her brother. The problem is asking to find the number of kilograms of grapes was left for Mary. The given fractions are 2/3 and 1/4. Look at their denominators. They are not the same. Fractions having different denominators are called dissimilar fractions. So, 2/3 and 1/4 are examples of dissimilar fractions. In this case, we cannot subtract dissimilar fractions yet because they have different denominators, namely 3 and 4. We can solve the problem in two ways. The first one is by drawing regions. We'll demonstrate the concept by using models to learn how to visually subtract dissimilar fractions. To begin, draw a rectangle and divide it by 3 equal parts to represent thirds. I will use vertical lines to split them into 3. Then, we will shade 2 of those parts to represent 2/3. Next, I'm going to model also what I'll be subtracting from 2/3, which is 1/4. Let's draw again a rectangle and divide it by 4 equal parts to represent fourths. This time, I will use horizontal lines to split them into 4. Then, we will shade 1 part to represent 1/4. Right now, it is difficult to take away 1/4 from 2/3 because the parts are not the same size. So, our first job is to rewrite the problem so that both fractions have equal parts. First, I will draw 3 horizontal lines on the rectangle which was divided vertically into thirds. Then, I will draw 2 vertical lines on the rectangle which was divided equally into fourths. Look! The two fractions now are divided into same number of parts. Both fractions have 12 parts. We will now change each fraction to its equivalent fraction, with 12 as the denominator. So, we will rewrite 2/3 as 8/12, because 8 are shaded out of 12 parts, and rewrite 1/4 as 3/12, because 3 are shaded out of 12 parts. We can now subtract the two fractions because both fractions have already equal number of parts. We need to subtract or take away the 3/12 region from 8/12. I will cross out or put X to show 3/12 is taken away from 8/12. Count the remaining shaded part in 8 twelfths. Thus, 5/12 is the difference of 2/3 minus 1/4. Let's see if we will get the same answer using the second solution. This time, we will not use any model to get the difference of 2/3 and 1/4. Instead, we will change them into similar fractions. In order to do this, we need to change the denominator of the fractions into a common denominator. Remember, the similar fractions have the same denominator. For step 1, we will change the dissimilar fractions into similar fractions by finding the least common denominator or LCD. Start by listing the multiples of 3 and 4. Then, identify the numbers that are common to both. Between 12 and 24, we will pick the smallest number. Therefore, 12 is the least common denominator of 3 and 4. To get the equivalent fraction of 2/3 with 12 as the denominators, divide first the denominators. 12 divided by 3. The quotient is 4. Then, multiply 4 by 2, and the product is 8. 8 will be the numerator and 12 as the denominator. And we have 8/12. To get the equivalent fractions of 1/4 with 12 as the denominator, divide first the denominators. 12 divided by 4, and the quotient is 3. Then, multiply 3 by 1, and the product is 3. 3 will be the numerator and 12 as the denominator, and we have 3/12. Step 3, subtract the new numerators and write the LCD as the denominator. So, 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. We will put 5 over the denominator of 12. Thus, 2/3 minus 1/4 is equal to 5/12. Using two different solutions, we will able to get the same answer, which is 5/12. Therefore, the answer to the problem is 5/12 kilograms of grapes was left for Mary. Let's try another example. 4/5 minus 1/2. For my first solution, I will use regions. Now, I will draw two rectangles. The first rectangle will be divided into 5 equal parts because the denominator is 5. I will use vertical lines to split them into 5. Then, shade 4 parts to represent 4/5. The second rectangle will be divided into 2 parts because the denominator is 2. I will use horizontal lines to split them into 2. Then shade 1 part to represent 1/2. We can't subtract the two fractions just yet because their parts are not equal. To make their denominators equal, first, divide the rectangle with the fifths into 2 equal parts. Then, I will draw vertical lines to make the rectangle with halves into 5 equal parts. We will change each fraction to its equivalent fraction with 10 as the denominator. So, we will rewrite 4/5 as 8/10 because 8 are shaded out of 10 parts. And rewrite 1/2 as 5/10 because 5 are shaded out of 10 parts. We can now subtract the two fractions because both fractions have equal number of parts. We need to subtract or take away the 5/10 region from 8/10. I will cross out or put X to show 5/10 is taken away from 8/10. Count the remaining shaded part in 8/10. Thus, 3/10 is the difference of 4/5 minus 1/2. This time, let's find the difference of 4/5 and 1/2 using the second solution by changing the dissimilar fractions into similar fractions. First, find the least common denominator of 5 and 2. We will list all the multiples of 5 and 2. Between 10 and 20, we will pick 10 as our LCD or least common denominator because 10 is the lowest number that they have in common. Second step, express the fractions with their equivalents. So, they have 10 as the denominator. To get the equivalent fraction of 4/5 with 10 as the denominator, divide first the denominators. 10 divided by 5. The quotient is 2. Then, multiply 2 by 4 and the product is 8. 8 will be the numerator and 10 as the denominator. So we have 8/10. To get the equivalent fractions of 1/2 with 10 as the denominator, divide first the denominators. 10 divided by 2, the quotient is 5. Then, multiply 5 by 1, and the product is 5. 5 will be the numerator and 10 as the denominator, and we have 5/10. For step 3, subtract the numerators and keep the denominators same. So, 8 minus 5 is equal to 3. We will put 3 over the denominator of 10. Using two different solutions, we were able to get the same answer, which is 3/10. Since our final answer is in the simplest form, no need to reduce into lowest term. In performing subtraction of dissimilar fractions, we can use any of the two strategies, such as representing the parts using regions and changing dissimilar fractions into similar fractions. Hopefully, by using the models, it will help you in subtracting dissimilar fractions. Whatever strategy is being used, you will get the same answer. And before we end this lesson, let us always remember the following. Remember to subtract dissimilar fractions. Step 1. Look for the least common denominator or LCD. Step 2. Change the dissimilar fractions to similar fractions. And for step 3, subtract the fractions and reduce the answer to lowest term if needed. And that ends our lesson for today. Did you understand it very well? If not, you may go back to the lesson presented in your module, or you may play this video again. If today's lesson is very clear to you, congratulations! You may now answer the exercises in your module. Good luck!